And welcome to the Tony Scott Internet Show. I am, of course, Tony Scott. I have been away for a week, a planned vacation. Well, actually, it was not a planned vacation, but there was a lot going on. I got a part-time job at a radio station, old school, 95.5 in St. Louis. Doing weekends, but I was filling in a lot last week also during the week. So I was really jammed up for time. And you know what? And it was good that I took off the week because with the decision that came down not to indict Officer Darren Wilson of the Ferguson Police Department in the shooting death of Michael Brown, an unarmed 18-year-old, I think had I been on, I think I probably would have said a lot of things from emotion that may not have been really good as a broadcaster or podcaster. So in a way, I'm glad I kind of took off the week, kind of took it all in, sorted some things out. But at the end of the day, I still feel like Darren Wilson should have been indicted. But I will say this, that in my opinion, Bob McCulloch, who was a St. Louis County prosecutor, acted more as a lawyer for Darren Wilson than as an advocate for Michael Brown. I mean, it was the state of Missouri versus Darren Wilson, wasn't it not? And yet, it didn't quite come off that way. The way Bob McCulloch, the Monday night of the announcement that there would be no indictment, the way he kind of, I don't know, chastise is the right word or not, but he kind of blamed social media for a lot of the bad things that went on. And I just think that was wrong. I mean, social media can be the devil, let's be clear about that, but social media has done a lot of great things, and it's kept the pressure on Bob McCulloch. But Bob McCulloch, you know, normally in the grand jury, the way I understand it's laid out, is that it's not really that hard to indict someone, and hence the phrase, the grand jury will indict a ham sandwich, because you present evidence with the intention of the grand jury making the decision, is there enough to move forward? Well, what Bob McCulloch did is he just rained all this evidence on them and had them really figure it out themselves. He didn't make a recommendation to the grand jury to indict Darren Wilson. You know, so in my mind, to a large degree, Bob McCulloch is guilty of malpractice, in my opinion, because he did not do the job that he is charged with, being the prosecutor, you know, being working with the grand jury to seek an indictment. You're there to represent Michael Brown Jr. And at the end of the day, he did not do that. He didn't do that at all. And I just think it was such a disservice that, you know, the grand jury, when Darren Wilson testified, which from what I understand is highly unusual that a defendant will testify to a grand jury. But the only question brought up to Darren Wilson was, well, you know, because Darren Wilson had said in his grand jury testimony that, you know, mixing it up with Michael Brown Jr. was like a 5-year-old taking on Hulk Hogan. And so I think a grand jury member asked, well, how tall are you? How big are you? Because because Michael Brown was 6'4", about 280. And Darren Wilson, he was 6'6", and 280. Darren Wilson is 6'4" and about 220. Now, I understand there's a 60-pound difference, and that's a lot. But Darren Wilson wasn't no little dude. He wasn't the size of a 5-year-old taking on Hulk Hogan. He wasn't even anything close to that. But he was never really challenged. And the prosecutor, Bob McCulloch, really didn't do a damn thing. Which is exactly why people wanted him to be removed as the prosecutor in this situation. Too many close ties to the police department. He comes from a family of police officers, his father and other relatives, things like that. His father was killed in the line of duty by a black man. So there's a built-in bias there that really, when you think about it, you if you're Bob McCulloch, you can't help but be biased. But he fought, and Jay Nixon sided with him, and you know, all these dignitaries sided with Bob McCulloch that he'll be fair. He doesn't need to be replaced, which was to me a blunder of huge proportions. Now, my understanding is double jeopardy does not apply to Darren Wilson in this situation because he never went to trial. Okay, this was a grand jury inquiry, and there can be another grand jury convened, whatever you want to call it, to look at this situation again. And a lot of people are hoping that that will be the case with a special prosecutor. But we'll have to wait and see. And of course, after the announcement Monday night, of course, there was unrest. There was the burning of businesses, the burning of cars on the used car lot. There was mayhem that Monday night. It was horrible. It was horrible. On many levels, it was horrible. And a lot of people were wondering, why did Bob McCulloch make that announcement at night? A lot of speculation as to what his reasoning would be. And I've talked to some people, and someone told me something that makes a lot of sense. And they told me that Bob McCulloch made that announcement at night because he wanted the story that night to be the mayhem that was in Ferguson. He wanted it to be the burning and the outrageous, not outrageous ain't the right word, but the angry protesters, and then some who will say they're protesters, but they're none but troublemakers. He wanted that to be the story, not the fact that he really screwed this up. There's a whole angle. I think we got played big time. We being the community got played big time by Bob McCulloch. I think we did. And I said this a couple weeks ago, and I'll say it right now. If Bob McCulloch is reelected St. Louis County prosecutor, that is our fault. That is our fault. Now, over this past weekend, there were lots of protests that went on. I think the 5 malls were closed for a period of time varying depending on the mall and stuff. But I mean, I think it was, Chesterfield. You had the Galleria. You had South County. You had West County. And I think Plaza Frontenac were some of the malls that were closed down, which is really most of the malls in this area. Also, I think they went to Hampton Village and also to the Brentwood Promenade and a couple of other spots. And, it was peaceful. They kind of laid down and kind of made it hard to get around. So they had to ask people to leave the mall because they kind of closed the mall. And of course, protesters were, I was happy. I was happy that this happened because I don't have a problem with the protesters doing what they're doing. Not that they asked me if I care or not. Of course, they didn't ask me. Who am I? But I'm happy that it was done and nobody got hurt. That was the thing with me. Enough people getting hurt. We don't need this anymore. We don't need people getting hurt. So it went on. Also, over the weekend, there were this organization called the Oath Keepers who did not want to be identified. But after the arson fires and storefronts that were bashed in, there was an organization put together called the Oath Keepers. And they were on top of the buildings in downtown Ferguson. They were on top of the buildings watching people. And it was like, well, what are they doing up there, right? What's the deal on that? What are they? Were they in a Klan or something? I mean, what is all this about? What is all this about? Well, as it turns out, police shut them down from guarding rooftops in downtown Ferguson. Police were saying, that's our job. We'll do that. Y'all get down from there because y'all are making it worse, which, I will applaud. And it was good to see some of the protesters in a peaceful fashion interacting with law enforcement. I think that to some degree, a lot of us have lumped every police officer in the same basket as Darren Wilson, and I don't think that's fair. I think there are officers, and they probably will not speak out, and I can understand why, but they feel that at the very least, Darren Wilson should have been indicted. It hasn't happened. The thing that still bothers me are the people who say, I'm not surprised. There you go enabling again. When you say I'm not surprised, you're not helping the conversation at all. It's almost like you're enabling when you do that. But that's what happened. And Darren Wilson did resign. And I've had some great dialogue exchanges via social media and on the phone with people who think that Darren Wilson will get a job as a police officer. Darren Wilson will never be a police officer again for lots of different reasons. One is, and I've said this before, what police department wants that kind of baggage on them? If you can hire a police officer who is just as effective as Darren Wilson with the experience and everything like that, but you don't get the baggage associated with Darren Wilson, why would you hire Darren Wilson? Well, you can get a baggage-free officer who can do just as good a job. Secondly, whatever police force he would get a job with, he puts the other officers in harm's way. They don't want that. And if Darren Wilson becomes a law enforcement officer, he basically is signing his own death warrant because he's going to get a call to investigate some kind of disturbance and he's going to get ambushed. I don't want him to get ambushed. I don't want Darren Wilson to die. I'm not wired like that. I'm not saying, well, he killed Michael Brown, that he needs to die. I am not of that belief at all. Because if I believed that way, I would go crazy. But I just don't think, given that it's too risky on so many different levels for him to be a cop again, I just don't see that happening. Plus, he's going to get the speaking engagements. He'll get invited by the NRA or some organization to speak, and that's going to pay very handsomely. About $500,000 was raised for his defense that, as it turns out, he really didn't need. He didn't get indicted. So he's okay. He'll be fine. I can't see him ever being in law enforcement again. As far as the interview that he gave, well, you know what? He said, I don't think I did anything wrong, and I'd do it again, which pissed off a lot of people. He shouldn't have said that because it makes it, and he has no remorse. It doesn't sound like he had any remorse at all. Did he feel bad? I don't know. Hard to tell, but that's kind of like what happened. And as painful as it was for a lot of us, we have to keep things going. There still needs to be change. Darren Wilson left the Ferguson Police Department. They have apparently severed all ties. There was not a severance package involved at all. I would imagine that Michael Brown's family will probably seek civil damages from Darren Wilson, which could, depend on future monies. I mean, if they sue him for $20 million and they win $20 million, he ain't got $20 million, but they can take his money in the future. Like if he did get a book deal or speaking engagements, he'd have to forfeit a lot of that money, if not all of it. You're thinking, well, O.J. Simpson moved to Florida so they couldn't get his money. O.J. Simpson moved to Florida because the judgment against him, if he lived in Florida, they could not touch his pension. Right? They couldn't touch it in Florida based on a civil action, was my understanding. That's why he went to Florida. Well, we're not talking about a pension here. We're talking about money that was raised for him. We're talking about future earnings, So we'll see, Of course, no amount of money is going to give Leslie McSpadden, her husband, or Michael Brown Sr. and his wife any satisfaction at all. It's not going to make it any better. Their son is gone. Any financial, benefit they would get, I assuredly it would go towards, college funds for Michael Brown Jr.'s siblings. I would imagine, but that's pretty much all I have. I mean, there's a lot more to talk about as far as this whole situation, but I'm going to stop with that right now. There's other things to talk about that I do want to get into, and one of them is this woman named Elizabeth Lawton, Lauten. Elizabeth Lawton is Communications Director for U.S. Representative Stephen Fincher. And apparently, she decided, President Obama last week, every president around Thanksgiving pardons the turkey, right? And this year he did his, the ceremony, and he had Malia and Sasha, his daughters, with him, and they looked like teenagers who were not very happy to be there. Probably thought it was a corny, hokey thing, and they had better things to do. They had that look on their face. They're teenagers. Now everybody knows that The president's kids, not just President Obama, President Bush, President Clinton, President Carter back in the day. Every president who had children living in the White House have always been off limits. Well, this Elizabeth Lawton decided that she would write basically an open letter, a Facebook post that went like this. Dear Sasha and Malia, I get you're both in those awful teen years, but you're a part of the first family. Try showing a little class. At least respect the part you play. Then again, your mother and father don't respect their positions very much, or the nation for that matter. So I'm guessing you're coming up a little short in the good role model department. Nevertheless, stretch yourself. Rise to the occasion. Act like being in the White House matters to you. Dress like you deserve respect, not a spot at a bar. And certainly don't make faces during televised public events. And Twitter exploded. And they went in on her. You know, you have to be you have to be a person with a pretty low character to attack children. Elizabeth Lawton is a disgusting human being, all this kind of stuff like this. 9 hours later, Elizabeth Lawton apparently talked to some people, and it was explained to her that you're probably going to be out of work, and you probably need to throw yourself on the mercy of the court of public opinion. So she puts on Facebook, I wanted to take a moment and apologize for a post I made on Facebook earlier today judging Sasha and Malia Obama at the annual White House turkey party ceremony. I reacted to an article and quickly judged the two young ladies in a way that I would never have wanted to be judged myself as a teenager. After many hours of prayer, talking to my parents, and rereading my words online, I can see more clearly how hurtful my words were. Please know that these judgmental feelings truly have no place in my heart. Furthermore, I'd like to apologize to all of those who I have hurt and offended with my words and pledge to learn and grow, and I assure you I have from this experience. You know, it was probably explained to her about, remember the woman earlier this year who made some kind of ridiculous comment on a plane, and by the time the plane landed, she was fired? It was probably explained to Elizabeth Lawton that this is a very probable thing that's getting ready to happen to you, so you just need to just suck it up and just say you're sorry and hope for the best. So, I mean, I don't know, man. You know, this president we have, President Obama, has never been able to win on anything, right? A lot of people criticize, African Americans criticize President Obama because he hasn't done enough for Ferguson. What exactly did you want President Obama to do? You wanted him to come to Ferguson and tell Bob McCulloch, step aside, young man. It don't work that way. Just because he's a black president doesn't mean he's going to come down and handle issues involving race each and every time it happens in this world. It just doesn't happen. It doesn't work that way. And if you think that way, you're not keeping yourself informed. You know, you're criticizing him for something that just wasn't. It's not gonna. It doesn't go like that. That's like saying, you know, why didn't Darren Wilson just shoot Michael Brown Jr. in the leg? It doesn't work that way. Every police officer I've ever talked to, not just during this whole Darren Wilson Michael Brown tragedy, even before, years ago, cops have always told me they're not trained to shoot somebody in the leg. They're trained that when they pull their gun, something serious is about to go down, and they're not interested in wounding anybody. That's just not how they're wired. Just telling you the truth, man. That's just how it is. But some people believe that President Obama should have come to St. Louis himself, which really is a whole nother headache. And now you got Secret Service, people who try to reach the president physically and stuff, get slammed to the ground. There'll be this whole thing going on. And then people will be mad. It just is not a good time for the president to be here if you're being practical, objective, and take the emotion out of it, which I understand is very hard to do. I get that. So one more thing about this, and then like I said, I'm going to leave this alone. Mayor James Knowles of Ferguson has announced a plan to increase minority hiring. Yeah, okay, man. Whatever you say. In Pennsylvania, police say that a woman apparently chased her boyfriend around a dining room table, then stabbed him in the chest because he started eating Thanksgiving dinner while she slept off a bender. That's what it says here. Jacqueline Blake confessed to cops who came to her home Thursday night, last Thanksgiving night. Officers found her boyfriend inside holding a towel over his chest. Non-life-threatening injuries, but the woman who's 47 years old is charged with aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. Simple assault, reckless endangerment, making terroristic threats. The boyfriend says she'd been drunk earlier in the day and she attacked him after waking up from a nap. And then she stabbed him and then threw the knife, striking him just below the left eye. This is because while she was sleeping off a bender, he decided to have Thanksgiving dinner. Hell, it all smelled good. He was hungry. It's Thanksgiving. The food's ready. Macaroni and cheese got that nice little, glaze. The food was ready. He just make sure. And he got stabbed for it. Who the hell does that? Really? I mean, seriously, come on, man. Lady, what's wrong with you? Then comes the story, and I believe this was in Houston. No, this wasn't in Houston. I think it was in Chicago. A gunman shot a woman before he shot himself at a Nordstrom's. So a crowded department store. He was targeting his ex-girlfriend. No one seems to know what the deal is. She was a seasonal employee at Nordstrom's and working on the second floor. He approached her. He fired one shot, striking her, and then he killed himself. Police found the gunman dead when they got there. The 22-year-old woman who was shot was taken to a hospital in critical condition, but she died Saturday. Marcus D. is the alleged shooter's name. Approached the woman at the store. They spoke with each other. He took out a gun. She was walking away. He shot her in the head, neck area, and then he shot himself in the head. Yet another reason why we've got to make it tougher for people to own firearms. I'm not picking on the NRA. Well, let's be clear about that. I'm not saying that at all. I think really, for the most part, people who are pro-gun, people who are in the NRA, those are pretty responsible people as far as guns. They know guns. They're very passionate about their guns. They understand everything like that. It's the crazy people who have nothing to do with the NRA. Those are the people we want. But of course, the NRA, they don't want to understand that because they think that we're trying to strip them of their rights to bear arms. And I don't think anybody at this point is even interested in even going down that road with them. We just want to get guns away from crazy people. And we all wish that the NRA would come to the table with a solution to help us do that. We don't want your guns. We want the guns of people who have no business having guns. Just because it's a right doesn't mean that everybody should be able to have one. Just because they make it in your size doesn't mean you should wear it. You see where I'm going here? But, this, that, and the other, and then the NRA gets mad. And, I've had serious debates with people who's like, you won't get my gun unless you pry it from my cold, dead hands. Okay. Okay. Fine. But, I mean, come on, man. Now, this story, I believe, was in the Houston area where a constable cut a woman off in traffic, and the woman says she didn't know he was a constable, so she goes, I'm gonna give it back to him. She cut him off in traffic, and then he shot her. He shot her. He fired into her vehicle with a gun, and it grazed her head. So the left side of her head, no major injury, but like she told reporters, I feel like I got a taste of death. What is wrong with people? Precinct 6 Deputy Constable Kenneth Kaplan is charged with aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. See, these are the people. Now, see him, he can't be allowed to ever have a gun again. He can't have a job that involves a gun. He can't do that because obviously he doesn't have the mentality to be a responsible gun owner. So we can't let him have a gun, right? You see what I'm saying here? I mean, it's got nothing to do with the NRA. If you're rational, responsible, and know how to use a gun and know what it's for and understand what you don't use it for and all that, that's fine. Have your gun, enjoy your gun, go. If you're this dude, not so much. The world has gone, we've lost our minds, man. We live in a world where everybody's hostile, everybody's angry, no one wants to take anything from anyone. I'm not taking that from him. No. Anger. Everybody's angry. No one knows how to deal with anger anymore. This is the disconnect, is that people are very angry and don't know how to channel that, I found out yesterday, Christophe St. John is the guy who plays Neil Winters on The Young and the Restless. He's played that role for years, right? Him and his wife, Mia, had a son named Julian, who was in his 20s, looked just like his daddy. Julian had suffered from mental illness for a while. I don't know if it was bipolar or depression. I don't know what it was, but he ended his life. He killed himself. And it broke my heart. You know, when Robin Williams killed himself, it broke my heart. Robin Williams had a lot of issues. You know, they said he was at the early stages of, I think, was it Alzheimer's or dementia or something like that? And of course, he suffered from mental illness and things like that. He just decided he couldn't take any more in his life. People called him cowards. You cannot call somebody who kills himself a coward because you have not walked in their shoes. And you're saying, oh, Tony, I've had it rough in my life. Yes, you have. God bless you. You're getting through it. But you're not him or her. Everybody reacts to things differently. And if you don't understand that, do us all a favor and shut the hell up. Because you're not helping. You're not helping at all. When he's a coward. Only cowards choose to kill themselves. You don't know his pain. You haven't walked in his or her shoes. Please, for the love of God, please shut the hell up. You don't know what you're talking about. The only thing you can talk about is your life, your situation, how you dealt with it, how you're coming through it, and God bless you, I hope you do. But you don't know their situation, so you have no reason to call them a coward. You haven't been there from their perspective. That's all I'm saying. Hey, thanks so much for listening. I'm going to leave it right here. All right, I appreciate you so much, your downloads, your sharing, telling people that I'm doing this. Got an event coming up this Friday that's going to be in Ferguson at Kathy's Kitchen. It's called Tony Scott Live from 6 to 8 p.m. I'll do a live podcast from there. Hopefully you can come by and say hello if I haven't seen you in a while. I'd love to meet you again, shake your hand, reconnect, whatever it takes. Join me from 6 to 8 p.m. Again, Kathy's Kitchen in Ferguson this coming Friday, December 5th. All right. I got coffee mugs that you can buy. There's a special going on right now. You can go to unheardmedia.biz. I think at the top it says shop or something like that. You can click that. It'll take you to where the mugs are. And they're on sale right now. I thank you for all your support. All right. Have a great day. And I'll talk to you tomorrow.